The massive black towers of the Vorthok Empire stretched toward the crimson sky of their home world. Deep inside the largest tower, alien leaders gathered around a glowing table that showed images from across the galaxy. Their scaly skin reflected the blue light as they studied reports from their spies. Admiral Kexmal, the most feared military commander in the Empire, slammed his clawed hand on the table. His yellow eyes burned with anger as he read the latest intelligence report. For 6 months, humans had been digging up quantum crystals on a distant planet called Kepler-442b. These crystals were incredibly valuable and could power weapons that would make any army unstoppable. Those weak humans think they can take what belongs to us, Kexmal growled, his voice echoing in the chamber. They have no idea what real power looks like. The other Vorthok leaders nodded in agreement. They had conquered dozens of worlds and destroyed countless civilizations. Humans seemed like just another weak species that would fall easily to their might. The Empire had been watching Earth's colonies for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. The mining operation is run by one administrator, reported Spymaster Vulcan, pointing at the holographic display. Remove him, and their entire operation will collapse like a house of cards. The image zoomed in to show a human settlement built around massive mining machines. Huge drills pulled glowing crystals from deep underground while human workers moved between metal buildings. It looked peaceful and defenseless to the Vorthok observers. "Show me this, Administrator," Kexmal commanded. A new image appeared above the table. It showed a man in his 30s, with black hair and tired eyes. He wore simple work clothes and carried a tablet computer. The file next to his picture read, Lee Jinho, age 34, former Earth military engineer, current colony administrator. "He looks ordinary enough," laughed General Morvex. "Just another human who thinks machines can protect him from real warriors." Kexmal studied the file more carefully. Jinho had served in Earth's military for 8 years before becoming a civilian administrator. He had worked on defensive systems and engineering projects, but nothing that seemed dangerous. His daily routine involved checking mining equipment, reviewing work schedules, and filling out reports. To the Vorthok, he appeared to be nothing more than a pencil-pushing bureaucrat. "Send the Shadow 12," Kexmal ordered. "This human will learn what happens when insects try to steal from giants." The Shadow 12 were the Empire's most deadly assassins. Each one had been genetically modified from birth to become a perfect killer. They could move without making sound, see in complete darkness, and kill in dozens of different ways. Their success rate was perfect. Every target they had ever been sent after was now dead. In a dark chamber beneath the main tower, the 12 assassins gathered for their briefing. Each wore black armor that seemed to absorb light itself. Their leader Thexura had silver scars covering half her face from battles across the galaxy. She looked at the image of Li Ginho with contempt. "This is our target?" she asked with disgust. "The Empire sends its best killers after a human clerk." "The Empire has its reasons," replied Zulamoon, the team's psionics specialist. "Perhaps they want to send a message to other human colonies." Vexen, who specialized in poisons, examined Ginho's medical records on his scanner. His body shows no signs of genetic enhancement or cybernetic implants. He's completely natural, weak and fragile like all baseline humans. The weapons expert Corvith checked his explosive devices one final time. "I could level his entire building with a single charge. This won't take long." Each assassin had their own specialty. Some preferred knives that could cut through steel. Others used energy weapons or high-tech gadgets. Klesh was a sniper who could hit targets from miles away. Mortok could hack any computer system and turn security measures against their owners. Together, they represented centuries of combined killing experience. "We leave within the hour," Thexura announced. "Each of you will approach the target from a different direction. We'll coordinate our attack during the colony's night cycle when most humans are sleeping. By dawn, Li Ginho will be dead and their mining operation will be in chaos. The assassins nodded and began preparing their individual ships. They had studied human colonies before and found them laughably easy to infiltrate. Humans relied too much on their machines and not enough on their instincts. They built their settlements like peaceful towns rather than military fortresses. As the Shadow 12 departed from the Empire's homeworld, Admiral Kexmel watched their ships disappear into hyperspace. He felt confident that this mission would be completed quickly and efficiently. The humans would lose their quantum crystals, and other species would learn not to challenge Vorthok authority. What none of them realized was that Li Jinho was not the simple administrator he appeared to be. His military engineering background had taught him lessons that would soon turn their perfect plan into a nightmare. The quiet man who spent his days checking mining equipment was about to remind the galaxy why humans had survived and thrived among the stars. The Shadow 12 flew toward their target, unaware that they were not hunters approaching prey, but rather walking into a trap that would redefine everything the Empire thought it knew about human capabilities. The twin suns of Kepler-4 were to be cast, long shadows across the mining colony, as another day began. New Sol buzzed with the constant hum of massive machines digging deep into the planet's surface. Quantum crystals sparkled like blue diamonds as conveyor belts carried them toward processing facilities. Human workers in protective suits moved between the industrial buildings, focused on their daily tasks. Nobody noticed the small cargo ship that had been sitting at the spaceport for 3 days longer than necessary. The pilot claimed engine troubles, but his ship's energy readings showed everything working perfectly. In the colony's employment office, a new maintenance worker named Hansuki had applied for a job yesterday. Her identification papers looked genuine, but the tools hanging from her belt were far more advanced than anything needed for basic repairs. High above the colony, the air shimmered occasionally in spots where nothing should be. The distortions lasted only seconds before disappearing, like heat waves rising from hot metal. Most people would have dismissed them as tricks of the light, but Li Jinho was not most people. Jinho walked slowly through the colony's main street, carrying his usual tablet and wearing his standard work uniform. He stopped at each monitoring station to check readings and make notes. To anyone watching, he looked like a busy administrator dealing with another ordinary day. Workers greeted him politely as he passed, calling him Administrator Li, or simply nodding respectfully. But Jinho's mind was working like a complex computer, processing dozens of small details that others missed. His military training had taught him to see patterns in everything, not just in machines and equipment, but in human behavior, energy signatures, and the way shadows fell across empty spaces. The merchant at the spaceport had been there too long. Jinho had checked the official records and found that similar engine repairs usually took 1 day. Not for the man's story didn't match the facts. More importantly, thermal scans showed that someone had been using advanced scanning equipment inside that ship, equipment designed to spy on other people. The new maintenance worker bothered him even more. Her application had been submitted perfectly, with all the right paperwork and references. But when Jinho ran a deeper background check through military channels, he found gaps in her history. Periods where she seemed to disappear completely from official records. Her tools also worried him. They were the kind used for breaking into secure systems, not fixing broken pipes. The shimmering distortions in the air were the most concerning sign of all. Jinho recognized them from his military days as the signature of cloaking technology. Someone was moving around the colony while invisible, studying their defenses and looking for weak points. Kim Minho, Jinho called to his chief engineer through his communicator. I need you to run a complete check on our power grid. Look for any strange connections or unusual energy drains. Minho's voice crackled back through the speaker. Is something wrong, sir? All the readings look normal from here. Probably nothing, Jinho replied calmly, but I want to be sure. Also, activate all the backup security protocols. Tell the workers we're doing a routine system update. Right away, sir. Jinho continued his walk through the colony, but now he was doing much more than checking routine maintenance. At each stop, he made small changes to the equipment that would be invisible to casual observers. He adjusted the programming on mining lasers so they could be controlled remotely. He rerouted power cables through different pathways, creating new connections that bypassed the main control systems. At the water treatment plant, he quietly modified the flow controls. To anyone watching, it looked like he was updating the filtration schedules. In reality, he was creating the ability to redirect water through different pipes at a moment's notice. At the communications center, he installed new relay systems, disguised as routine upgrades. Park Woojin, the colony's head of security, found Ginho working late in the main control room that evening. Banks of monitors showed feeds from cameras throughout the facility, while status displays tracked everything, from air pressure to crystal production rates. Working late again? Administrator Woojin asked. You've been putting in long hours this week. Just making sure everything runs smoothly, Jinho replied, his fingers dancing across multiple keyboards at once. How's the security review going? All quiet. No unusual activity to report. Jinho nodded, but didn't look away from his screens. He had spotted at least 12 different infiltrators moving through his colony over the past 2 days. They were skilled and careful, but they had no idea they were being watched by someone who understood both military tactics and industrial systems. The Shadow 12 had come to New Seoul expecting to find a soft target, a civilian administrator, running a peaceful mining operation. They had studied human colonies before and found them easy to penetrate. Humans, they believed, were too trusting and relied too heavily on their machines for protection. What they didn't realize was that Ginho had been preparing for this kind of threat his entire adult life. His 8 years in Earth's military had taught him that the best defense was often a good offense. More importantly, his engineering background had shown him how to turn any industrial facility into a fortress. As night fell across the colony, Jinho made his final preparations. Every system in New Seoul was now under his direct control. Mining equipment could become weapons. Power grids could create traps. Water systems could deliver death instead of life. The peaceful colony had been transformed into something far more dangerous. The Shadow 12 were about to learn that hunting humans required more than superior genetics and advanced weapons. It required understanding what made humans truly dangerous, their ability to adapt, improvise, and turn any environment into an advantage. The twin suns disappeared behind the mountains, leaving New Seoul in complete darkness. Streetlights dimmed to their night settings as the colony's workers finished their shifts and headed home. The massive mining machines powered down with mechanical sighs, and the constant humming that filled the day faded to a whisper. Only essential systems remained active: life support, emergency lighting, and basic security monitors. This was the moment the Shadow 12 had been waiting for. Like deadly shadows, they emerged from their hiding places throughout the colony. Each assassin moved with the fluid grace of a predator, their enhanced senses allowing them to navigate the darkness without making a sound. They had studied their targets' routines for days and knew exactly where Lee Jinho would be at this hour. Vexen crept through the underground tunnels toward the water treatment facility. His scaled hands carried a small vial of poison so deadly that a single drop could kill 100 humans. The toxin was colorless, odorless, and would dissolve completely in water. By morning, their target would be dead, and no one would ever know why. The poison specialist had done this countless times before, on dozens of worlds. Humans always made it easy by drinking the same water that flowed through their entire settlement. Contaminate the source, and everyone would die within hours. But tonight, he only needed to poison the pipes leading to Jinho's private quarters. Vexen found the correct junction and carefully injected his poison into the water line. The deadly substance mixed with the flowing water and began its journey toward the administrator's home. Satisfied with his work, he decided to get closer to confirm the kill. After all, the Empire wanted proof that their target was dead. Meanwhile, Mordok had infiltrated the colony's main security center. His clawed fingers worked across multiple keyboards as he systematically disabled cameras, motion sensors, and alarm systems throughout the facility. One by one, the security monitors went dark as he fed them false signals, showing empty corridors and quiet rooms. The hacking specialist smiled as the last camera feed switched off. Humans relied so heavily on their electronic eyes that they became blind without them. With the security system down, his teammates could move freely through the colony without fear of detection. The mission was proceeding exactly as planned. High on a rocky ridge overlooking the colony, Clash assembled her sniper rifle with practiced efficiency. The weapon was a masterpiece of Vorthok engineering, capable of punching through steel walls at distances of several miles. Through her enhanced vision, she could see clearly into Jinho's office, despite the darkness. There he was, sitting calmly at his desk, apparently working late into the night. The human administrator looked tired and defenseless as he stared at his computer screens. Cleach adjusted her scope and prepared to take the shot. One pull of the trigger, and the mission would be complete. But inside his office, Jinho was far from defenseless. The security monitors around him showed feeds from cameras that supposedly no longer worked. His fingers moved across a hidden control panel built into his desk, activating systems that the assassins didn't even know existed. He watched calmly as Vexen moved through the water treatment facility, as Mordok worked in the security center, and as Clash lined up her shot from the ridge. Time to spring the trap, he whispered to himself. The first to die was Vexen. The poison specialist had no way of knowing that Jinho had rerouted the water system hours earlier. The pipes leading to the administrator's quarters now carried nothing but air, while the main water supply had been redirected through an industrial cleaning system used to process mining chemicals. When Vexen entered the treatment facility to confirm his kill, Jinho activated a hidden valve. Instead of clean water, acidic mining solvent flooded the chamber with explosive force. The chemical was designed to dissolve rock and metal during crystal extraction. It ate through Vexen's protective armor in seconds. The assassin's scream of agony echoed through the underground tunnels, but the sound lasted only briefly. The acid dissolved his vocal cords, along with everything else, leaving behind only a puddle of smoking liquid where one of the Empire's deadliest killers had stood. Mordok discovered too late that disabling the security system had been a trap. The moment his hacking routine finished running, backup systems that he hadn't known existed came online with triple redundancy. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut around him like the jaws of a giant trap, sealing him inside the security center. But that was only the beginning. Mining lasers that had been secretly repositioned during routine maintenance began firing through carefully drilled holes in the walls. Jinho had spent days calculating the exact angles needed to turn industrial cutting tools into precision weapons. The lasers carved through Mortok's body with surgical accuracy, reducing the hacking specialist to scattered pieces. On her ridge, Klesh pulled the trigger, just as Jinho seemed to look directly at her through his office window. Her shot was perfect, striking her target precisely in the center of his forehead. But instead of blood and death, she saw only flickering pixels as the holographic projection disappeared. Klesh realized her mistake just as explosions began erupting around her position. Jinho had triggered controlled mining charges placed throughout the mountainside during excavation work. The blasts brought down tons of rock and earth, burying the sniper and her expensive rifle under half the mountain by midnight. 3 of the Shadow 12 were dead, and the remaining 9 finally understood the truth. They weren't hunting a simple administrator. They were being stalked by a predator who had turned their own deadly skills against them. A quiet human with his maintenance schedules and equipment checks had revealed himself to be something far more dangerous than any of them had imagined. The surviving 9 assassins gathered in the colony's central plaza, their black armor gleaming under the emergency lights. For the first time in their lives, these perfect killers felt something they had never experienced before: fear. 3 of their teammates were dead, killed not by superior warriors, but by mining equipment and industrial systems. Vexera, the mission leader, tried to maintain control as her team looked to her for answers. Her silver scars seemed to glow in the dim light as she spoke into her communication device. "He's turned this entire place into a weapon," she whispered, her voice tight with anger and confusion. "Every machine, every system, they're all working against us." The remaining assassins spread out around the plaza, their enhanced senses scanning for threats. But how do you fight an enemy who can kill you with water pipes and security cameras? How do you defend against someone who uses the very ground beneath your feet as a weapon? Corveth, the explosives expert, decided to end this quickly. He had brought enough firepower to level half the colony. If he couldn't kill Jinho quietly, he would simply blow up every building until nothing remained. The Vorthok assassin began placing his charges around key structural points, timing each explosive device with the precision of a master craftsman. But as Corveth worked, he had no idea that Jinho was watching his every move through hidden cameras. The human administrator had spent years learning about different types of explosives during his military service. He knew how they worked, how they were triggered, and most importantly, how to make them explode at the wrong time. Jinho's fingers moved across his control panel, accessing the mining computer systems that monitored the colony for dangerous chemicals. These sensors were designed to detect unstable compounds that might cause accidents during crystal extraction, but with a few simple modifications, they could do much more than just detect explosives. They could trigger them. The first charge exploded while Corveth was still holding it. The blast vaporized the assassin instantly, leaving only a smoking crater where he had been standing. The other explosives detonated in sequence, each one triggered remotely by the very systems they were meant to destroy. The chain reaction lit up the night sky, but the damage was contained exactly where Jinho wanted it, nowhere near any critical facilities. Zulamoon, the psionics specialist, watched her teammate die and decided to try a different approach. She closed her glowing eyes and reached out with her mind, searching for Jinho's thoughts. Mental attacks were her specialty. She could drive enemies insane, make them see things that weren't there, or simply stop their hearts with fear. Her psychic probe found Jinho sitting calmly in his office, apparently unaware of her mental intrusion. Zulamoon smiled and prepared to flood his mind with terror and pain. But as she launched her attack, something went horribly wrong. Electromagnetic fields suddenly erupted around the colony, generated by or processing equipment that had been secretly modified for this purpose. The powerful magnetic waves disrupted Zulamoon's psychic abilities like static interference, disrupting a radio signal. Instead of attacking Jinho's mind, her mental energy bounced back at her with doubled force. The psionic assassin screamed and clutched her head as psychic feedback tore through her brain. She fell to her knees, blood streaming from her eyes and nose. In her agony, she didn't notice the automated mining drone that rolled up behind her on silent wheels. The drone had been programmed to handle delicate crystal extraction work, but Jinho had given it new instructions. Its precision-cutting arm moved with surgical accuracy, crushing Zulamoon's skull like an eggshell. The psychic specialist died instantly, her powerful mind finally silent. Each death followed the same terrible pattern. The assassins would try to use their special abilities, only to find them turned against them by human engineering. Jinho didn't fight them like a warrior. He solved them like problems, finding the most efficient way to eliminate each threat, using the tools available. To him, the stealth specialist discovered that his cloaking device was useless when thermal sensors tracked his body heat. The poison expert found his own toxins redirected back at him through the air filtration system. The Blade Master's molecular sharp weapons were no match for industrial electromagnets that could pull metal objects through solid walls. In the colony's main control room, Park Woojin watched the systematic destruction of the Shadow 12 with growing amazement. Status displays showed him everything: the assassins' positions, the traps being activated, the industrial systems being repurposed into weapons of war. "Sir," Woojin asked quietly, "how did you know they would do exactly what you expected?" Jinho's hands never stopped moving across his control panels as he activated another deadly trap. A small smile played across his tired face as he answered, "Pattern recognition, Woojin. Assassins are predictable because they're trained to be efficient. They always choose the shortest path, the most direct approach, the solution that requires the least energy." Another assassin died as mining equipment collapsed a tunnel at precisely the right moment. Jinho continued his explanation without looking away from his screens. "They think tactically how to kill one target as quickly as possible, but engineers think systematically. We see the whole environment as interconnected parts of a larger machine. They see individual targets to eliminate," Ginho said, as another trap claimed another life. "I see engineering problems that need systematic solutions." The Shadow 12 had come to New Seoul expecting to hunt a defenseless administrator. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a carefully designed killing machine operated by someone who understood that human ingenuity was the most dangerous weapon in the galaxy. The first rays of sunlight crept over the mountains surrounding New Seoul, painting the mining colony in shades of gold and orange. The twin suns rose slowly, bringing warmth to the industrial buildings and metal structures that dotted the landscape. Steam rose from the massive mining equipment as the machines cooled down from their overnight operations. Throughout the colony, the bodies of 11 elite assassins lay scattered like broken toys. Some had been crushed by mining equipment. Others had been dissolved by industrial chemicals or cut apart by precision lasers. Each death told a story of human ingenuity turned deadly, of peaceful tools transformed into instruments of war. In a small storage building near the colony's edge, Vexera crouched behind stacks of supply crates, her body shaking with fear and exhaustion. The mission leader of the Shadow 12 had watched her entire team die one by one throughout the night. Each death had been more horrifying than the last, not because of the violence, but because of the cold precision behind it. Outside the storage facility, automated mining drones rolled back and forth on their silent wheels. These machines were designed to handle delicate crystal extraction work, but Dexera had seen what they could do to living beings. She pressed herself deeper into the shadows, afraid to make even the smallest sound. The door to the storage building opened with a soft hiss, and Lee Jinho stepped inside. He looked exactly the same as he had in his intelligence file, a tired man in simple work clothes, carrying a tablet computer, and wearing the expression of someone dealing with routine administrative tasks. But Dexara now knew the terrible truth behind that ordinary appearance. "The morning shift starts in 10 minutes, Jinho said calmly, as if he were discussing the weather. "You don't want to be here when the workers arrive." Vexara tried to speak, but only a strangled whisper came out. How did you kill your team?" Ginho finished her question. "I didn't kill anyone. Your teammates died because they didn't understand the environment they were operating in. They saw a mining colony and thought it was defenseless. I saw a fully equipped industrial facility and recognized its potential." He held up a sealed metal container about the size of a lunchbox. "You're going home," he said simply, "with a delivery for your empire." Vexera stared at the container with growing horror. "What's in there?" "Evidence," Jinho replied. "Proof of what happened here tonight." With trembling hands, Vexera opened the container. Inside, she found carefully labeled samples from each of her 11 teammates. Small pieces of armor, fragments of weapons, even biological samples. all preserved in clear containers with detailed identification tags. Each sample was accompanied by technical specifications, explaining exactly how that particular assassin had died. The documentation was incredibly thorough. Jinho had included complete blueprints of every trap he had used, showing how mining lasers could be repositioned to become precision weapons, how water systems could be turned into delivery mechanisms for industrial solvents, how computer networks could be programmed to detect and trigger explosive devices. More disturbing were the detailed analysis reports of Vorthok military equipment. Jinho had studied every piece of gear recovered from the dead assassins and reverse-engineered their technology. He had figured out how their cloaking devices worked, what frequencies their communication systems used, and even the genetic modifications that gave them their enhanced abilities. At the bottom of the container lay a single sheet of paper with a message written in perfect Vorthok script. The handwriting was neat and precise, like everything else about this human administrator. The words were simple, but carried a weight that made Dexora's blood run cold. Humans don't just fight wars. We solve problems. Send more assassins if you want more solutions demonstrated. How do you know our language? Dexora asked, her voice barely above a whisper. I studied it, Jinho replied matter-of-factly. Along with your culture, your military tactics, your technology, and your psychology. Information is a weapon, and humans are very good at gathering information. He gestured toward the door. Your ship is fueled and ready for departure. The spaceport control tower has cleared you for immediate takeoff. I suggest you don't delay. That stumbled toward her ship on unsteady legs, clutching the container against her chest. Behind her, she could hear the sounds of the colony coming to life as the day shift began their work. Human voices called out cheerful greetings to each other. Mining equipment started up with mechanical roars. Everything seemed normal and peaceful, as if the night's horror had never happened. As her ship lifted off from New Sol's landing pad, Nexara looked down at the colony one last time. She could see Li Jinho standing near the main administration building, checking his tablet and preparing for another ordinary day of managing mining operations. To anyone watching, he looked like exactly what he claimed to be, a quiet bureaucrat dealing with routine paperwork. The journey back to the Vorthok Empire took 3 weeks. During that time, Dexora had plenty of opportunity to study the contents of Jinho's container and to think about everything she had witnessed. By the time she reached the Empire's homeworld, she had come to a terrifying conclusion. Humanity was far more dangerous than anyone had realized. In the Obsidian Council chambers, Admiral Kexmel opened the container with his own hands. As he examined the evidence of his elite assassin's destruction, his expression changed from confidence to confusion to growing alarm. The technical specifications showed him capabilities he hadn't known humans possessed. The tactical analysis revealed how much human intelligence knew about Vorthok military secrets. Most disturbing of all was the realization that this devastating defeat had been accomplished not by human warriors, but by a single administrator using nothing but mining equipment and industrial systems. If one human could do this much damage with peaceful tools, what could an entire human military force accomplish with actual weapons? Admiral Kexmal closed the container and looked around the council chamber at his fellow commanders. Without speaking a word, they all understood the same thing. They had awakened something they were not prepared to face. The Vorthok Empire quietly canceled all planned operations against human colonies. Some problems, they realized, were too dangerous to solve.